The Volkswagen T-Roc is undoubtedly an attractive vehicle to look at, but at the same time, it's not really an SUV. It's not too large either, and it doesn't have the best in segment space. It is not best in terms of offering you the maximum convenience features, and yet it costs just about rupees 20 lakh ex-showroom. Now one look at the Volkswagen T-Roc and it instantly becomes clear that Volkswagen India's cars are changing. This is no longer one of your just about good looking, elegant, sober and well built Volkswagen cars. No, it's not. This is much more in your face, but in a good way, not like the Chinese. So this is still a very elegant vehicle to look at, but look at this amazing color. It is so much energetic, so much youthful to look at. Add to it the fact that you've got this aggressive design up front, a good looking grille here, and of course a honeycomb finish on the air dam. You've got this cladding to give it the rough look. Well, it's not exactly an SUV, but it still looks as a rough crossover. And again, these good looking LED headlamps with the LED DRLs where you would expect the fog lamps to be, and the fog lamps sitting actually much lower. Move to the side and again you have these good looking smart alloy wheels, and you have a vehicle that looks really hunkered down because the T-Roc isn't exactly high. Now to give you a perspective of how big it is, in terms of length it is just about the same as a Kia Seltos or a Hyundai Creta, maybe a little bit shorter, but in terms of height it is much lesser than many of these subcompact SUVs out in the market. So it does have a very low stance which gives it a dynamic effect. At the back too, the design is similar to what you see on the rest of the car, aggressive yet neat and not overdone. And as a result of that, the Volkswagen T-Roc comes across as an energetic, a youthful and a young vehicle to look at, but at the same time it is exquisitely elegant too. Once you step inside the cabin of the Volkswagen T-Roc, well, it looks very Volkswagen-like. And for me, that's not a bad thing because, well, yes, for some, the complete dark shade inside the cabin might be a bit too much, but it's all nicely done and put together, so it doesn't look cheap or tacky. The material all around is hard plastic. I wish there were some soft surfaces at least on the top part of the dashboard and in the door pads, but that said, the plastic quality, like I said, is good. The metal finish here is quite nice, so that kind of breaks the monotony. And again, as a result of the material fitment and finish quality, despite being a dark interior, the cabin doesn't really have any visual fatigue. Beyond that, again, if you have seen the Volkswagen Tiguan All-Space, well, you get a similar interior layout here. You have this 8-inch infotainment touchscreen with Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and by the way, good interface, easy to use, nice slick touch interface. There's a 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster. Again, the All-Space also gets it, but the layout in this one is different, and I quite like this one a little bit more than the one in the All-Space. And if you look at the steering wheel, again, a flat bottom, nice chunky steering wheels. However, you'll see one thing that is missing here in the steering wheel is the buttons for cruise control. Now, a lot of people might say that why in a 20 lakh rupee vehicle there is no cruise control, but then again, you need to keep in mind the T-Roc is brought into India through the CBU route. That is, it's made in Europe and simply imported, so you can't really have all of it. Beyond that, well, as far as space inside the cabin is concerned, again, good amount of storage space inside the cabin and smartly integrated too. However, there is no wireless smartphone charging pad. There are two USB outlets here though, and the 12-volt socket also The seats themselves are also quite nice and offer good amount of support and can easily accommodate people even with larger body frames. As far as equipment level is concerned, the Volkswagen T-Roc impresses us again. There's a lot of equipment that has been stuffed inside the car despite its size, and these include an electronic parking brake, you get a tire pressure monitoring system, there's an engine start-stop system, there are heated mirrors, there are heated seats, there's a panoramic sunroof, and of course front and rear parking sensors. There's also some active safety driving assists like lane keep assist, and there's a collision warning system too. So you can see, well, it is completely decked up, but yes, like I said earlier, there's no wireless charging pad, and it does miss out on features such as ventilated seats, and I'm not sure how useful will heated seats be in India. Now, despite the good number of features that the T-Roc has and that I just spoke about, there are some shortcomings inside the cabin, and that is at the rear seat. Now, once you're here, it is quickly clear that space is not really a luxury in the T-Roc. Now, with the driver's seat adjusted to my driving preference, and I'm 5 feet 8 inches for reference, you can see there's not much of legroom left to spare. Headroom is okay, well, not bad at all, but again, it's not really suited for tall occupants. The seat itself is quite nice. I like the fact that there is a good amount of under thigh support. The cushioning is good, and the side support is again nice. The backrest angle is good, and of course there's this cushioned center armrest too. That's it. The seat is still not good enough for 3 people because you have a high transmission tunnel here, and the design itself is not conducive to have 3 people sitting abreast, but 2 people can still sit comfortably. And yes, the cabin is not really big in terms of space, but again, like I said earlier, there's a panoramic sunroof, and that does a bit to liven up the space and make the cabin feel a little bit more airier. And now on to the most interesting bit about the Volkswagen T-Roc, and that's its driving performance. Now, as far as performance is concerned, propelling this car is a 1.5 litre TSI engine that produces a maximum of close to 150 horsepower and 250 Newton meters of torque. Now, all this power is channeled to the front wheels through a 7-speed DSG automatic transmission, and as a result of this package, what you get is a very potent powertrain, which is quick and exciting. Now, being a turbocharged engine, well, when you're about say under 1800 RPM, well, there is a hint of a turbo lag, but not enough to really put anyone off. But once you're past that mark, the engine comes into its own element, and that is the point from where on you start getting a good amount of acceleration. Now, accompanying the acceleration is also a good vocal track. Now, I'll not say the sound coming out from the exhaust in the engine is pure music, but it is a throaty roar that you get to hear, and that just adds a bit to the driving fun. As far as acceleration is concerned, this engine is very impressive. Again, step hard on the throttle, and what you get is very quick acceleration. And being a DSG transmission, the gearbox does a really good job of rowing through the gears. So the upshifts and the downshifts are done in a snap, and that's exactly what you would want from a performance-oriented vehicle. Now, while I did say that the engine does have a throaty sound to it, it doesn't mean that it's loud all the time. So if you're just pottering around the town or lazily cruising at say about 60 or 70 in the city, well, it is a very refined engine. At that point of time, the NVH levels are impressively high, and that means any unwanted noise and vibrations do not filter inside the cabin. So a pretty much perfect balance between two opposing worlds. As far as ride and handling is concerned, again, this is a car that, like I said earlier, is brought into India through the CBU route, which means this is made in Europe and imported. Now, that said, this has pretty much European style of ride quality. So at low speeds you will find the suspension to be on a slightly stiffer side, and the bigger potholes and the expansion joints and sort of stuff will filter inside the cabin. But as you pick pace, as the speeds increase, things improve, the ride quality becomes much nicer, and straight line stability once you get up to high speeds is commendable. And it's not just straight line stability that's commendable, even when you're going around corners, the T-Roc can throw up a bit of pleasant surprises, as she doesn't mind just taking corners. Now there are a lot of vehicles that would take a corner with relative ease, but where the T-Roc really shines is that you can throw a series of corners at her and she will still not flinch. As long as you're not really overcooking, the T-Roc will go through a continuous series of corners and keep you happy, in fact leave you with a big smile on your face. So with all this talk about performance, speed, handling, cornering, you must be wondering, well, what about efficiency? Well, this engine isn't just inclined towards performance alone. It is an intelligent engine, and that's why it gets cylinder deactivation technology too, which means that despite being just a 4-cylinder engine, when you're driving sedately and the computer thinks that you don't really need all the 4 cylinders firing, 2 cylinders will shut down, and that helps you save a lot of fuel. Well, the transition from 2 to 4 or 4 to 2 is completely seamless, and you'll not find a difference. If you still want to see when it's happening, well, there's an eco prompt that lights up on the top of the instrument cluster, and that is when you can know that okay, now the engine is running in a 2-cylinder mode and not a 4-cylinder one. Now this is a technology that is usually seen on 6 or 8-cylinder engines to save fuel, but Volkswagen has put it in a small engine like this, and there are fuel efficiency benefits to it. So this is something that is unique to the T-Roc in this price segment. While rupees 20 lakh might sound a bit too high for the Volkswagen T-Roc, it really isn't. Like I explained in the video earlier, the T-Roc is a fantastic vehicle to look at. It's got a well-appointed cabin, and of course it also has some unique active safety features. Add to it the fact that the T-Roc is an absolute cracker to drive. Now if these are the things you're looking for in your next purchase, well, the T-Roc makes a strong case for itself. If you like this video, please hit that subscribe and share button, and do not forget to press that bell icon to stay updated to forthcoming Express Drive videos.